So today I'm talking about social networking, Twitter, and how these new technologies have kind of come to change our world a little bit, giving us new access to information, and have really changed, I think, how people engage, specifically in the political process. But tonight I'm not really going to talk about politics, but I am going to talk about people who are interested in politics. So I'm going to be talking about people's views, but I really don't want to try to influence you or how you think about politics. Your opinions are your own. I respect them. But I'm going to talk about some people who are very interested in politics. So, one second. Here we go. I titled this one rather provocatively, "This Machine Kills Apathy." And I'll get to why that is the case. Originally I titled this, "You Matter." But I realized after a while that it was even more than that. This was actually, we're seeing kind of a sea change in how people interact with the world around them. So this is really about you, Web 2.0, and the start of the 21st century, which I think one could seriously argue just started recently. So I'm going to give you a brief history of the 21st century from my perspective. And I'm 24. I mean, I grew up during the Bush years, which was, for young people, a very difficult time. There's a lot of anger out there, as if we were being discounted, or as if there was no one representing this new group of people who are coming up and just about to start voting. So, with that in mind, you have to realize that most people under the age of 30 no longer watch network news, no longer read newspapers, and no longer access information through the readily available, what is now called traditional media. People read blogs now. In fact, many of you, I'm sure, use the internet at least 2-3 times a week to access news from whether it's the New York Times or Daily Kos or the Next Right or whatever blog you prefer. But basically, things have started to change. The way people learn about their world is fundamentally shifting. So I'm going to talk about Jake. This is Jake. And he's a friend of mine from Santa Barbara, where I went to college. And here he is, about 20 years old. This was during a photo shoot for some records he was going to put out. And it's actually a photo composite put together. But Jake was a passionate musician, and he really understood the world politically, I think. I think he was a very astute, or he's a very idealistic person. I guess that comes with being 20 years old. But also he was very engaged in the political process. He found virtue in it. So this is a funny one. We both really liked folk music when we met, so we used to hang out, and this used to be what was written on Woody Guthrie's guitar back in the 30s and going into World War II. It was the idea that this machine, this guitar, allowed him to fight the fascism that was rising in Europe. Through the media, through music, through engaging with people at shows and influencing them one-on-one and telling them reminding them what was great about America. Well, my friend Jake one day woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and he decided that he was not at all happy with the direction the country had taken. Once again, I would say these are some controversial views, and you don't necessarily have to adopt them. And I know many of you may be offended by the concept, but I hope you'll bear with me. Basically, he did what people my age typically do when we come up with a cause. We band together, and then we create a blog. And then we send that blog out to other people. In this case, Jake started passing around the idea of an impeachment fest, a big show, basically, to promote the idea of holding the government accountable for its actions up to that point. And the actions weren't even completely known the way we know them now, so it's kind of a radical thing at the time. And sure enough, he got some resources together, and he printed flyers, and he got sound equipment, and he got video equipment, and he got people out there. This is Jake on, I believe it was May 17th in 2006. This is our graduating year. And here he is presenting to a bunch of people in front of Stork Plaza in Santa Barbara. And here's a bunch of young people, you know, all the kind of miscreants, right, hanging out in front of the university center, watching the proceedings with, there's some apathy going on, bored. But there were people showed up, right? So it was kind of an interesting turn of events that people actually were engaged in this process. So we had young people like this, who are the Facebook crowd now, and they really got into it. But we also had people like this. This was a Vietnam veteran I took a picture of. I took pretty much all these pictures in this presentation today. And he really was not happy with the direction that the government had gone and the direction that the war had taken. So he decided to show his support. I think he heard about it through the blog, and he was a local, so he came out and supported the impeachment rally. So, as we can see, the traditional media kind of picked up on it, this was the school newspaper. I guess that's pretty traditional. It's been around for a long time. So they started talking about it, but what I found was interesting was, even now, you see that it's got a Facebook icon on it, right? So we see this kind of bleeding between these two different kinds of media. So this is Facebook, for those of you who haven't seen it before. It's a social networking tool, and it's been around since I was about 19 or so. It showed up, and then it exploded. Everyone, you were not cool if you didn't have a Facebook. MySpace, which was there even earlier, completely disappeared because this thing offered some things that other pieces of software, other social networking tools really didn't. And we're going to get into those a little bit later. Or not a little bit later, but I've put together some links and stuff for those of you who are interested in Facebook terminology, how to sign up for it, how to get an account, how to use all the features. That's all. I've got links that cover it really well, probably better than I could in half an hour. So we're going to talk more about the effects of this software. So this is Jake's Facebook page, and he really thought he saw something in this technology, something I think way before anyone really knew, way before CNN jumped on the bandwagon, way before all these different news outlets had Facebook accounts. He was really he thought that there was going to be a sea change that resulted from this. So one day he woke up and decided to start a group called, and in Facebook you can create groups and people can join these groups. And they can talk on the walls, and they can put up pictures, and they can do all sorts of different things. And he decided that he wanted to create a group called Students for Changing the Post-Mini-Feed World. And that's just a reference to this event that happened when Facebook kind of changed in how it sent you information. Instead of you kind of refreshing the page and seeing the new stuff that had appeared, new stuff just got pushed out to you. Every time someone you knew wrote something on their Facebook, it would wind up on your page and you could see it. And this is actually a completely new direction that the internet has taken. In the old days, you'd go out and download your email, or you'd go out and see a web page. Now things wind up in your inbox. They come to you. And in fact, you see if anyone has an iPhone, the idea that your mail exists somewhere, and every time something comes in, it gets pushed right to your phone, is actually kind of the descendant of this technology, or this idea. So, Jake was he's pretty happy with how Facebook started out working for them, but he started to go in a different direction. He actually built an online social community for student activists to trade ideas, talk about how to band together, how to come up with more effective ways of reaching people and spreading their messages. So it's kind of like a special interest group specifically for student political activists. He wanted to give back to the community that had given him so much. So, unfortunately, things didn't go so well. About a year and a half after we graduated from college, my friend Jake, who had been ill for a while, started to get worse. And he got better, and then he got worse. And actually, the title of this talk tonight, which was originally going to be You Matter, which is still true, I decided in honor of Jake to call it This Machine Kills Apathy, which was what he thought was the 21st century equivalent of what Woody Guthrie had been telling us, 70 years earlier. So the idea that there's a problem out there, that just as fascism was confronting people in the 1930s, apathy was going to be my generation's crossfire. That we're going to have to remember what it means to engage as citizens in a political process, whatever, left, right, it's irrelevant, but engaging in a meaningful way that isn't just talking heads shouting at each other on the noise box, that actually involves dialogue and coming to consensus and meaningful change. So Jake's illness progressed.